Hello and welcome to my tutorial on how to configure Xsplit. In this tutorial we're going to talk a little bit about hardware, how to set up your resolution, how to set up a screen region, and how to configure the actual client to stream to whatever streaming service that you do use, be it own.tv or twitch.tv. One thing I want to start off by saying is I'm going to be touching on this in a random order. You can do it in any order you want. You can set up the screen region first, then the resolution, then configure the actual client, or you could do it backwards. It doesn't matter so long as you do every single step before you stream. So after this, I'm going to cut the video, and then I'll be back and we'll be talking about hardware. Okay, now we're going to talk about hardware. I see a lot of people asking questions on forums, on Reddit, on Dig, on what exactly you need to stream. They get a lot of bad information, so I decided to just clear it up right now. The most important part of a computer for streaming is going to be the CPU. That's because you're encoding video on the fly, often high quality video between 720p and 1080p, and streaming it to the internet. That's completely based on your CPU. Your GPU only matters for game performance. Now, you will get some stress on your CPU because you're streaming, so your frames in a game will go down. So having a good GPU is going to pay off for the actual quality of playing the game, but not for the actual stream. So when you're going to go buy a CPU, you're going to want at least a 4-core CPU. I use a Sandy Bridge 2500K. I don't recommend anything that's dual core at all. If you can get a Sandy Bridge or better, do so. It'll have no problems running Xsplit at all. It'll have no problems running other things in the background while you're streaming. Phenoms can stream, or Phenoms, however you say it. They can stream as well. But anything lower than that, I would not bother with. A GPU, I use a 6850. It's not expensive. It cost me about $119. It's nothing amazing, but I haven't found a game I couldn't stream with it yet. 4 to 8 gigs of RAM is perfect for streaming. Anything more than that's overkill. So if you want to buy 16 gigs, go for it, but it will not impact your streaming at all. Outside of the CPU, the most important thing, this is more important than the CPU, but it's technically not hardware, is going to be your upload speed. That dictates your bitrate, which we'll explain later, and that dictates the quality that you can stream online. The higher your upload speed, the better quality you can stream. I don't recommend streaming anything less than 1 megabit upload, and even that won't be great quality. At about 2 megabit upload, you can stream at 720p, and higher than that, obviously you can do even better quality. You can adjust your bitrate so that even though you're streaming 720p, it can even be higher quality. You're never going to have an exact mirror of how everything looks. It's going to have a little bit of pixelation no matter what you do, because you need such high bitrate to get a perfect quality stream that the servers you're streaming to, like on Owned and Justin TV, will not accept that high of an upload. So, you can get pretty crystal clear, but you're not going to get perfect. Outside of that, there's not really much else to explain in terms of the computer part. I'll touch on more about upload when we get into configuring actual XSplit, but for now, keep that in mind when you build a computer. Configuring the actual XSplit client isn't very hard. I'm going to go over every menu item, how to add a screen region, and show you exactly how to configure the client for, I'm going to be doing Twitch TV, but they're all the same. Okay, so at the top here, you're going to see a few menu items. The first is going to be File. Under File, it's pretty self-explanatory. You have New Presentation, Load Presentation, Save Presentation, and then a bunch of add things. You can add screen region, IP camera, title, live stream, and a bunch of things that we're honestly not going to talk about because it doesn't matter for getting your actual stream up and running outside of screen region. Under View, you have resolution, frame rate, transition, projector, and scale viewpoint. So the resolution is going to be the resolution that you're streaming at. I have it set to 1080p right now because I'm local recording, which has nothing to do with streaming online. And you see a few others. I personally stream at 720p, but I use, a pretty good amount of my upload to do that, which we'll talk about later. Frame rate, Once again, it's right here. I stream at 30 FPS. You can go all the way down to 1 FPS, which, I mean, you're never going to want to do that. Adjusting your frame rate can help you stream at a higher quality, but I don't suggest doing it anything lower than 25 FPS. If you're having any type of streaming issues, try 25 FPS, and if that doesn't help, just boost it right back up to 30. As that's a smoother viewing for the people watching your stream. Transition, I just keep it at fade. You don't really need to do anything. Projector is just a screen that you're on. And scale viewpoint is the actual window itself. I have it scaled to 60%. I suggest that while you're actually streaming, you scale it down to 10% because it actually saves CPU cycles. And you'll use less of your CPU if the actual player window itself is smaller. Now, I'm not going to shrink it now because you're not going to be able to see what I'm talking about. But I usually have it about 10%. I would say that's broadcast. I'm local recording. This is how you start your broadcast. Once you set up your channel, you'll see it here. So, example, mine's the Twitch TV channel Deadbeat Gaming. It's displayed here. If I click that, then I'd be streaming online. That's how you start your stream. And as you can see here, I have it bound to my numpad number 9 key. If you notice, there's a check mark next to local recording because that's what I'm doing. And think of local recording like fraps. I'm basically frapsing my whole screen right now. Announce, I don't really mess with announce at all. You're not going to need to. It's more of an advanced thing. It has nothing to do with the quality of your streaming. Then there's tools, general settings, which we'll touch on in a little bit, and help. Now, also, if you notice under broadcast, you can edit your channels. And this is where you're going to go to set up your actual configure file for Twitch TV. So I'm going to cut the video in a little bit, and I'm going to be on that screen already. So to get to the screen to configure Twitch TV or own.tv or whatever streaming you use, you go to broadcast, edit channels. So now we're going to talk about adding a screen region. So when you start up Xsplit, it's going to have just a blank screen. There's going to be nothing there. And even if you configure for Twitch TV, it'll still stream in black. And that's because you need to capture an area of your screen. And to do that, it's pretty simple. Right now I have this, as you can see in here, this whole area of my screen is captured. So I captured from the top corner all the way to the bottom corner. That takes the whole screen up, and it gets everything that I want to display online. You don't have to do that. You can capture a little tiny box. You can capture everything except the bottom toolbar. It's up to you. But if you're going to be streaming a game, you're obviously going to want to capture the whole thing. So to add a screen region, you just click Add. Then you go to Add Screen Region. And now I can't display it because I'm recording myself. But what will happen is your screen will go gray. And what you do is you grab your cursor and you click on the top corner and you drag all the way to the bottom corner. And that will capture the whole screen region. Once it's captured, this area, the window area of your XSplit, will show the screen capture. But it'll be small in the corner of the window. So then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to click on the corner of it and drag it so it's full screen. It will take up your whole XSplit window. That's really all it takes to add a screen region. It's pretty easy. It might seem a little confusing to you because I couldn't actually display it, but once you go to do it, you'll see it's extremely easy. Okay, now we're going to talk about configuring the actual XSplit client. I'm not going to be able to show you while I record because when you go to edit your channels, it completely stops the recording. So what I did was I took a screenshot of the actual config window, and I'll be explaining it through the screenshot. So make sure that you already have your screen region set up. That's the first thing you should do when you go to set up XSplit. So if you haven't done that, do that right now. Once that's done, click on Broadcast, Edit Channels, and a window should pop up. And on the window, it should say Add. Click Add and add whatever streaming service that you're using, be it Justin TV or own.tv. Once you add it, a window like this is going to pop up, and this is the configure window to set up your actual stream. It's mostly self-explanatory except for a few things. So under username, that's the username you use to log into the actual streaming service. Your password, once again, is a password you use to log into the streaming service. Under stream key, you don't need it for XSplit. It's really used for Adobe Media Flash Encoder or Adobe Flash Media Encoder, whatever it's called. I wouldn't worry about it. Your password works fine. Your channel should automatically be set up by Justin TV or Owned or Ustream or whatever you use. Now location. What the location is the location of the server that you're streaming to. So mine's set up to main origin cluster, but 99.9% of the time, default is fine. The reason I did was because default was giving me a little stutter on my stream. So I switched it to main origin cluster, which should have been default in the first place. And it fixed mine. But if I were you, I'd just keep it on the setting that says default, and it should cause you no problems. Now under video encoding, you're going to see something called preset. Once again, keep this on default unless you really know what you're doing. You're going to see a lot of different settings that say very fast, fast, medium, placebo. What those do is it basically, it's the amount of stress on your CPU for the quality that you're streaming at. So the slower you go, the higher quality the video is going to be, but the more stress it puts on your CPU. The faster you go, the less stress on your CPU, and the lower the quality. So under very fast, it's going to depend more on your bitrate than on your CPU, and under medium, it's going to depend more on your CPU than your bitrate. Generally, you're going to want to leave it on default, because the moment you start messing with it, it can mess up your stream. Even if you have a powerful CPU like a 2600K, streaming on medium is going to lag you at 720p 90% of the time. So don't touch that, leave it on default. Under quality, you're going to want to set your quality to either 8 or 10. It's up to you. Most people can't tell any difference. If you're getting any type of lag on your stream, you're going to want to put that down to 8 or 9. I have it on 10 because it didn't impact my stream at all. But if it impacts yours, put it to 8. Outside of that, you're going to see max bitrate, and you're going to see VVV buffer. We'll touch on the buffer first because there's a lot to talk about with the actual bitrate. Basically, to sum it up very simply, the buffer is how much pixelation you get in an action scene. It's simplifying it to a high degree. So the higher it is, the less pixelation you're going to get in an action scene. However, the higher it is, the bigger the chance that you're going to lag. If you're getting any type of lagging problems while you stream, lower that first. That should be the first thing you do. Most people recommend it being half of what your bitrate is. So if your bitrate's 2000, lower it to 1000. It makes a tremendous amount of difference, and it's often the reason your stream is lagging. Now, VBV max bitrate is going to be the bitrate that you're streaming at. This almost completely dictates the quality of your stream. The higher the better, obviously. Mine's set to 1300 right now. You're going to have to set yours to based on whatever your upload speed is. So to find out your upload speed, you're going to want to go to speedtest.net, and it will tell you. So based off that, you're going to want a minimum of 1 megabit per second upload speed. Higher is better. Once you have a 2 megabit upload speed, or around 2, you can stream at 720p. You cannot stream at 720p if you have less than 2 megabits per second. So don't even try. Try a lower resolution than that, and we'll talk about resolution later. So I have a 2 megabit upload, and I set my bitrate to 1300. And the reason I set my bitrate to 1300 is because you get spikes in your bitrate while you're streaming. And those spikes could go over what your max upload is. And if it goes over your max upload, your stream is going to lag. So my suggestion is take at least 500 off whatever your max upload is. So a 2 megabit upload is the equivalent of a 2000 bitrate. So I took off more than 500 just in case I get any type of spikes. So if you have a 4000 megabit upload, then I suggest putting it down to 3500 or less. Now, once you get higher than 2 megabits, your quality starts to make very little difference. If you can have a 2000 bitrate and a 2000 buffer, you can stream at 720p in extremely high quality.